Hi there everybody, it's UK independent Stampin' Up demonstrator Helzie here from slimandstylish.stampinup.net. Today I'm going to be playing with the Fragrant Flowers stamp set. This is the cling stamp set and it's absolutely beautiful. And then I'm also going to be playing with the Favoured Flowers Designer Series paper. So this paper is amazing. There are 12 sheets of 12 by 12 with 6 different double-sided designs, and it is completely free during Sale-a-Bration. So if you spend £45 with me from my store, slimandstylish.stampinup.net, you can add this to your cart for free. It's stunning. These are all of the designs. I'm going to flip it in a minute so you can see that the back has some gorgeous geometric designs that go with it. The colour scheme is basic black, blackberry bliss, calypso coral, evening evergreen, fresh freesia, mossy meadow and petal pink. I'm going to be using this paper for a series of videos to show you how you can get some gorgeous designs out of it. And I'm going to be teaming it up with a stamp set. I'm going to be bringing to you 4 or 5 different videos over the space of February that uses this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this big sheet of 12 by 12 and I'm going to fussy cut out the flowers, and I'm going to fussy cut all of them out. I'm only going to do a few on camera because I like fussy cutting sitting in front of the TV, but you can see that I'm doing a whole range of them. And then I'm going to separate them on my desk so that I have the purples on the one side, the corals and the pinks on the other side. And then I'm going to use all of these fussy cut out pieces for my cards going forward. It's really simple to cut these, and actually it was great fun. I did just sit in front of the TV and just go for it. And I also included the ones at the edge and the side. So here we go, and let me show you the different projects I've made. On this card, I used the lovely Evening Evergreen DSP, so it's on the back of this purple one. And I grabbed the purple flowers that I'd already cut out. I just thought the leaves went really well, and some Evening Evergreen cardstock. I haven't used Evening Evergreen for ages. I don't seem to put it on my projects very much. So this was like well out my comfort zone, but I do love using deep colours occasionally, so was quite excited to see where it went. I cut a little piece of the DSP, 9 centimetres by 10 centimetres, so it slopped just on top of my matte piece, which is 10.5 centimetres by 14.9, and then I just stuck it down. I wasn't quite sure at the start whether this was going to be the top or the bottom, or whether this was going to be horizontal or vertical. I just thought get playing. And I've got the Evening Evergreen coordinating ribbon. And this is what's so great about Stampin' Up and being a Stampin' Up demonstrator, is that everything we have coordinates. So the DSP matches the cardstock, and then the ribbon matches that, and it all goes really well with the colours, so it made me quite happy. I've just wrapped the ribbon around and adhered it down. I haven't stuck the faux bow that I'm going to pop onto it yet. I figured I'd put that on at the end when I've worked out which way around the card's going to go, and I actually quite liked it with the DSP towards the top. The bottom part was just a bit bland for me, so I grabbed this detailed piece from the stamp set, and I've used the Evening Evergreen ink. This is what I mean, it all coordinates really well. And I've done some tone and tone stamping. So I've just added this onto the card just to give it a little bit of texture. And then when I balanced my flower back over the top, I realised the one bit you weren't going to see, so I just re-stamped it and brought it out towards the edge. Next up is the sentiment. So I quite like this thanks. I do really like the font in this set, and I looked at it for a bit. I was going to do it in Evening Evergreen, but then I thought to myself, you've got gold in the DSP, so it's a waste if you don't do it in gold. Because I was going to be using my Versamark to stamp this, I wanted to do it in the Stamparatus and get it right first time, so I could go over and over and over again with it. So I'm just going to use my embossing buddy to clear up the card so that it's got no static on it. Pop my magnets in. I've put my stamp case under the hinge so that it's all secure, and I'm just going to stamp this down. The best thing about using the Stamparatus is you can see really clearly which parts of the stamp haven't actually took. So I'm going to stamp this about 3 or 4 times to make sure it's really crisp and really clear before I heat emboss it with the gold embossing powder. See, I was just lining it up 2 or 3 times. I'm not a big fan on the Stamparatus of stamping near the hinge. You can do, and it works fine. I just don't really like it. I seem to have to push harder on the bit that's by the hinge, so I do try and keep it towards the middle of the plate. And as you can see, like I said, I'd gone over it. Now, what I also did, which you can't really see here, but you will see in a minute when I add the embossing powder, is I accidentally caught the side of the stamp with the ink, and just underneath the T and the H, there's like a shadow from the stamp set. So that's my fault. I didn't stamp cleanly, but it's not going to create a huge problem for me. So I'm going to add the embossing powder on. And as you can see, when I hit it off, it's going to show you where that gold line is, just underneath the T and the H. So I'm going to take a paintbrush and I'm just going to very quickly clean that up around there and make sure there's no more ink settled on the page than what I actually want. Once I've done that, I'm going to grab my heat tool and I'm going to heat this up. This is one of the best things about doing the videos and doing a talk over the top. Normally when I talk through my videos, this bit gets really loud and I have to sort of shout over the top. So this is quite handy. I've just had this cold. It's probably been about 3 months now and I'm still struggling. You know, standing up and moving around makes me cough really bad. And actually it's kind of hurt the side of my sort of ribs. It must be a muscle there. So I'm also on some ibuprofen as well, because every time I cough I go ow in between, and I know you wouldn't want that on my videos, so I'm still doing my voiceovers. So now that I've heat embossed this, I was just putting my embossing powder back in the tub because honestly I can make that fly all over my craft room. I'm just going to trim the sentiment down, and I did trim it down so that it had quite a big gap. And I actually wasn't quite keen on it, so I went back and trimmed it even further and made it quite a small gap so that it was just a small strip of thanks. By putting the big purple flower on the card, I realised I was going to be taking up a lot of the card if I had a big sentiment as well. So to finish it off, I'm just going to cut down the sides, again leaving the same sort of gap. And then I'm going to look at how I'm going to put everything together on my card. So I did have a little play here with how I wanted these to sit, whether I wanted one to be on top of the flowers, to the side of the flowers. And in the end, I decided I wanted it towards the side, just above the flower. I thought this flower is so pretty, why cover it up? But you can see it took me a few minutes to work out exactly the position that I wanted this flower to be in. So I got my dimensionals. I'm going to be popping the flower up on my dimensionals as well as the sentiment so that the whole thing on this card just pops. And what I did here was a little bit of a mistake, and I will point out to you. I put a dimensional in every corner of the image, and I really should have put one in the middle as well. Because as I went to stick it down, I actually noticed that that middle flower is bending. The DSP is a little bit thinner than our cardstock, and it was starting to go in the middle. So if you do it, just make sure your middle bit's supported, especially if you're going to be putting it in the post. So I'm just trimming this down again, and I'm going to stick it exactly to the edge like that, so it doesn't cover much of the flower and it looks like it's wrapping around the edge. I really just enjoyed having this. It's not foiled DSP, it's matte DSP. But by adding the heat embossed gold on the top, I thought it made the bottom look like it was embossed as well. It was a really clever trick of the eye, which I hadn't really worked out beforehand. And then rather than sticking it onto white cardstock, which I had planned to do, as it's such a deep and dark card, I've decided to add it to Evening Evergreen cardstock. So I've just cut it so that it's an A5 sheet and then scored in half, so it ends up as an A6 card. So that, for the measurements wise, is 14.89 by 10.5. The score marks at the 10.5. And then I'm going to grab a piece of our adhesive foam backing and I put that on the back of the card, cover the whole full card like that so it sticks up really well. Peel the backing off and stick it down. To finish this card off, we've got some gold sequins in the new mini catalogue, and I thought they will just really make this pop. So I got those, and I also added my faux bow, which I promised you earlier. I didn't spend much time playing with my faux bow. It's the exact same colour as the card, so it wasn't going to pop too much. It was just going to add some texture. And then yes, the adhesive back sequins, which I always like. I love putting sequins on projects, but I find they can get really messy. So I love the fact that Stampin' Up do adhesive back sequins. And I'm just going to add a few of those towards the bottom of the card to complement the gold that's at the top. And that's this card finished. I'm really enjoying playing with this free DSP. If you want it, head over to my store, put £45 worth of goodies into your trolley, and you can add this as well. What do you think? Let me know below.